Hey guys, today we're going to talk about how to change your oil, but before we do that we have to talk about why you change your oil, why your engine needs oil, and the different types of oil that there are. Your car or truck needs oil because it keeps the parts inside lubricated and working properly and cool enough for the engine to do its job. Without oil, there would be excessive vibration and friction, which would eventually wear down the engine and break parts apart and cause them to work too hot. There are three main types of oil: synthetic, semi-synthetic, and natural mineral oils. The best of those is probably full synthetic oils, which last the longest. Inside of those three types of oil, there are different viscosities. The different viscosities that are listed on the bottle are the difference in how they resist moving fluidly. The 5W means 5 winter, or the cold weather, and then the 20 would be on the hotter side of the engine, and they change due to the temperature of the engine, which is what they call multi-viscosity. We typically use the full synthetic because, as I said, it lasts the longest. Now we can get into the process of changing your oil. The first thing that you're going to have to do is lift the vehicle off the ground if it's not a big truck that you can slide yourself under without lifting it. We've got a car that needs to be lifted, and you can do that with either a jack or with a car lift, and you have to find the specific spots on the car where you'll lift it from safely without doing damage to the body. These have adjustable points that will go in and out, as well as swivel, so that we can find the point on the vehicle that's safe to lift. Typically you want to go for a frame point, or a vehicle might have a specific pinch weld where they've reinforced it for lift. This one has an actual point that is on the frame that you can use. Once you find all your lift points, go ahead and lift the vehicle up just a little bit. Check your points again. Make sure that your beams are not touching the vehicle and only the pads. Get the vehicle all the way off the ground. And when it's just slightly off the ground, give it a little rock to make sure it's sturdy, because if it falls, you want it to only fall a little. And we're good. Once it's lifted, you're going to need a wrench and something to drain the oil into. After you've got the tools that you need, you're going to locate the drain plug, remove the drain plug with the catch basin in place. Once you have your vehicle raised, you're going to find your oil pan, and a hex bit will be your drain point. In this case we have a 19 millimeter. And go ahead and loosen that up. It won't start to drip until you get it a little bit further typically. Once it's fully drained, you can check the plug. Many of the plugs actually have magnets on them to catch any worn bits of metal that may have been working through the system. Clean that off and you can replace the plug. After the plug is replaced, you're going to want to remove the filter. Once you locate the filter, you typically are going to need a wrench, whether it be a strap wrench, or they do sell little plugs that go on the bottom that can remove them as well if you can get to that point. Sometimes they're in a tough angle. When you do remove it, be careful and be prepared, because you're going to get some oil that's going to drip from that as well. Next, you want to locate your oil filter, and you're probably going to need a wrench to loosen that. Be prepared for some oil to come down from the oil filter as well. Once you get it loosened, you should be able to get it off with your hand, and you'll see some dripping down. And you can clean that up once you've replaced it. And once you have that off, you can lubricate the seal on the new one, on the new filter, before you replace it. Otherwise they tend to bunch up and can actually leak. Lubricate the seal with a little bit of fresh oil. That helps keep it, excuse me, from binding up when you tighten it. When you start to turn that on, you want to only go hand tight with these. You don't want to crank them on because it is aluminum typically that it's being fed onto, and you can strip that joint. And then you can replace the filter. And when you tighten it, you do not want to use a wrench. You only want to go hand tight. Tight, but hand tight. Which sometimes is a little difficult because you get a little bit of oil on your hands from everything that dripped. Once you have the filter on, you can lower the vehicle. Go ahead and lower the vehicle. Fill it with new oil, and you can get that information on how much you have to fill it. You do not want to overfill your oil, or you can overpressurize the engine. So you'll fill it to however many liters or quarts, depending on your vehicle, that it needs. In this car here, we actually need 4.5 liters with an oil when you change this as well. You don't always have to change the filter, although we always do. Some manufacturers will tell you only have to do it every other oil change. Last thing you have to do is refill your oil. You want to make sure you use the weight that is required by the manufacturer. The Audi TT actually uses from 5W30 to a 5W40. In this case, we're using the 530, and you can find that in your owner's manual. You want to make sure you only put as much oil as is required by the manufacturer. If you overfill it, you can overpressurize the engine and do damage. That also you can find in the owner's manual. And you can use the dipstick to make sure you're at the right level after you've started it once. So once you have it filled up, you want to start the car. Let it run for a minute or so to allow it to run through the engine, and then you can let it settle and you can check the volume to make sure that you have the proper amount in. You'll pull the dipstick, clean it once, reinsert it, pull it out again, and you can see that you have the proper amount of oil. This is your dipstick. I'm going to clean it once. And you want your oil to be in between those two lines. You'll typically see some hash marks there, and we're good. It's as simple as that, and as hard as that when things don't go well and you can't get bolts that have been on for a long time off. But that's that.